Hello and welcome to Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope you discover cooking box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we're going to make cinnamon fan biscuits, which are really just a baking powder biscuit in a little bit of a different format. So I'm going to start with a very basic baking powder biscuit dough. So I'm getting 2 cups of flour. And I really think that this is like a super standard baking powder biscuit recipe. So 3 tablespoons of sugar. And then I need 4 teaspoons of baking powder, which I'm going to use my adjustable measuring spoon. So I got 3 teaspoons right here. And I'm never very picky with baking powder to measure, like, I don't know, that's good enough. I'll do a little bit more. Okay, and then this one calls for cream of tartar, which it seems like a lot of recipes don't really call for that anymore, but it used to, you know, so I don't know what's changed in the world, but this recipe calls for it, probably because it's an old recipe. I actually got this from my Auntie Lori, but she got it years ago, and so cream of tartar was always used years ago when they made baking powder biscuits. Now, not so much. And so did I say half a teaspoon of cream of tartar, half a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Then I'm going to use my little pastry blender, which is really awesome for baking powder biscuits. Don't really know what you could use. I guess you just use a spoon, but this really cuts up the butter. So all I'm doing is really just mixing my dry ingredients, and then I'm going to add a stick of cold butter. This is right out of the fridge, and you can throw the whole thing in, but I've discovered over the years that it's just so much nicer to cut it into little tablespoons like this, and then you don't have to work so hard with your pastry blender. So I think it's worth a little 10 seconds of chopping right there. Okay, so and then I'm taking my pastry blender, and then you just really are pushing down on your chunks of really hard butter to get them to be blended in, but this will never be smooth like cake batter. You want it to be like the shape of peas is what recipes always say. And when I was younger, I was like, what do they mean? Like, so that it resembles peas. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. I just didn't really get it. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, oh, I see. Like the little butter chunks are the size of a pea is what they're kind of going for. So I don't know if you can see in here, but I'm getting little chunks that kind of have this pea-shaped size, and that's really my butter. So I could probably sit here for 20 minutes and like maybe it would get kind of smooth, but probably not because it's so hard. And I really want the little chunks. Okay, so that's it. And then all these I just get out with my finger. Suppose if you were like civilized, maybe you'd use a gadget, but I don't. So that's how I do it. It's fine. Okay, just last piece of butter. Okay, then you add 2/3 of a cup of milk, and then we're going to stir this together. This really is just how you make baking powder biscuits, which are awesome to eat if you're having soup or breakfast, because they come together really quickly, and then they just puff up in your oven, and they're beautiful. And they're just so soft and tender right out of the oven. So I make these a lot when I'm having soups in the winter, or if I just want a really nice bread product, but I don't feel like waiting for yeast bread and I don't have the time. So, and this takes a little bit of effort to stir it, but that's okay. It's worth it. Okay, so now I'm going to get ready to do my kneading and my rolling out. So normally, well, let's see, let's keep going. Normally I would dump this out. This is for baking powder biscuits now. I have just the same style. And I do this to kind of get all my flour chunks out of there. Okay. So now I'm going to knead this to get it to come together a little bit more. It's just a little bit too not combined or whatever you call that, segregated or separated or something. Okay, so, and bracelets are probably not the greatest thing. I never have bracelets on, I don't think, when I make baking powder biscuits very often. Okay, so I don't know, well, you'll be able to see when I roll it out, but you can usually see your chunks of butter. And then I just kind of go around and grab my little chunks of flour that are all over the place. Okay, so now if you were making baking powder biscuits, you would just pat this out into a little circle that's like good half-inch tall or whatever, and then you would use your cutter or just a knife to make them into biscuits. But we're making cinnamon fan biscuits, so now I'm going to actually roll this out. So I'm going to do a pretty hefty flouring because I don't want them to stick. So I'm trying to make a rectangle. So I'm going to get my handy dandy rolling pin, and I do it once, kind of gets sticky, then I flip it over, and then I'm trying to make a rectangle that is like 14 by 10, I think it is. What does my thing say here? Oh! What does it say? 12 by 10. Okay. And I do kind of measure. I got my little ruler here, you guys. Like, I'm serious about this rectangle. So, I don't know. I just really think, you'll see why I need it, because I actually do kind of measure my, my little strips. Okay, so let's just see. Here's my handy dandy ruler. So I got 9 inches by about 13. So I'm gonna go out a little bit so I can get 10. And if you have any kind of like separation like this dough, you know, is pretty forgiving. You just kind of squeeze it together. And then I really do take a minute to try to get it to be as rectangular as I can, because the edge pieces here will end up not being the perfect fan. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so now I got 13 by 9. Okay, and I'm worried this is like sticking. I don't want it to stick because I'm going to, whoopsie, I just made a little tear in it. I'm going to have to pull them all up. Okay, so I'm just gonna spread this out even more. I think when I made my little perfectly square corners, I lost a little bit. Okay, I don't know, let's try it one more time. 10 by almost 14. Okay, so I think I'm gonna call that good. All right, so now what I want to do, sorry, I just really like to pat this out and make it also square, rectangular. Okay, all right, now I'm going to do, this is still stuck like that. I'm gonna do 8 little strips, so I just use my butter knife. Oopsie, wait a second, I'm way ahead of myself here. Let's just paste this back together. I gotta do my cinnamon and sugar, you guys, I can't forget that. Okay, so now my butter's a little bit hard, I'm a little bit worried about it, but we're just gonna go for it. Oh, yeah, see, this is soft. I'm supposed to take 3 tablespoons of butter, which is not supposed to be so rock hard. And I'm going to spread, oh, 1, 2, 3. So I did 1, 2, so about, I don't need that much. So I'm supposed to put all this on here. So yeah, normally when I wake up in the morning, I don't have such hard butter. And I don't really want it to be melty. So we're just gonna take a little bit of time and just go and not be so crazy rushed, because it'll work. See, it's all spreading out. I just am impatient. I'm kind of an impatient cook sometimes, but I think that's because, you know, I want it to turn out and I want it to be done. So I just want to make sure that I don't have like these giant blobs of butter and then have like none elsewhere, you know. So, all right, so we're going to do this. So in a normal, perfect little world, your butter would be really soft and you just spread it around like on butter bread or whatever, you know. But of course, because I'm trying to film and like it's, you know, you guys are waiting for me to get done, it's not going very fast. But it's really okay because all these are going to be combined. So even if it's not like spread out perfectly, which normally it really is, like I spread it all just out beautifully, it's going to be okay because these are basically like cinnamon rolls, you know, without a yeast component, which means you don't have to wait and do it like, you know, hours ahead of time, which is another reason why I really like this recipe, because it's really yummy in the morning. It really does feel like I'm eating cinnamon rolls. And then baking powder biscuits are like really soft and really nice texture in my opinion. I mean, so is yeast dough with cinnamon rolls, but okay. I think we're just going to call that good. It's really, oh wait, I have a little bit more here I should do. It's definitely sloppy, but I am sure you will not taste the difference because it's all going to be, this is like another stick of, like 3 tablespoons of butter. So now we've got like a stick and almost a half in this recipe. So like, can't go wrong with all that butter on your stuff. Okay, I'm calling that good. Push that over there. Hands are messy, that's okay. All right, then I'm going to take another 3 tablespoons of sugar, and I just reach in and then I just sprinkle it all around. And this is making your cinnamon and sugar roll, or you know, cinnamon roll. So this I do try to make sure that it's spread, you know, pretty nicely. But again, they all get layered and they all get combined. So I don't know. Don't really know if it matters, but try to be even. So there we go. That's even enough in my opinion. And that was 3, I think. Okay. Then my recipe says 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I never ever measure it. I just dump cinnamon. And I do quite a bit. I would love to know how much I'm putting on, but I think it's got to be at least a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. So if you're not much of a cinnamon fan, you wouldn't have to put any, or just a little bit. But I kind of like it. So I go pretty heavy. Now we take our little butter knife and now we cut it into 8 strips. So, and they should be about 1.5 inches wide if we did our measurements right. Okay, so, but you know, it's easy to do 8 because you just do middle, middle, and then middle. Like all the middles. So you don't really have to measure. I did the first time, like get my ruler out in 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. Okay, now you have to pick these up and make them go on top of each other. So that's why you don't want them to stick, because you do that. And you do lose a little bit of sugar, like that one I lost kind of a lot because it was a little bit stuck down there. But it's all okay. It's all in the name of the game. And see, this is why these edge pieces here are going to kind of mess up my little fan. Oopsie, and this one just tore. You just put that back together. You glue it right back together. Okay, so now I have these little stacks, okay? Then you cut these in half. Again. And then 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm supposed to have 8. Am I going to have 8? If I do... No, how many am I supposed to have? Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't even think when I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm going to do 4 and 4. That's 8. Oh my gosh. Oh, I always think I'm doing something wrong. Like, I swear, when I cook without a camera going, I'm not quite so like, oh, what am I doing? But, so yeah, I'm making 4 here, and I'll make 4 there. And 4 plus 4 is 8. Okay, baking is really good for math, in case you were wondering. Okay, so now I've got my 8 little biscuits. And I'm going to spray my pan, which I always do over the sink. It's just this weird habit I have, so hang on. Oops, see, that's probably why I just totally missed. Oh boy. Okay, then I'm going to put a little bit of water in each of these. And I got a little bit in there. So I always feel like when you have a pan like this that has empty spots, you have to fill them with water. Like, I don't know if that's a real scientific fact, but I have always done it. Like, I would never just put these bare in the oven. And now this one's really little. See, like, this is gonna be my kind of goofy guy. So I'm gonna put him in the middle because he'll bake a little bit slower, hopefully. And my big monsters I'm putting on the outside. Okay, so I'm putting these cut side up so that when they spread out, they make a cute little fan. And they really kind of do. So sometimes they fall over, like this one, but hopefully when they actually bake, they'll all be kind of together. You can actually kind of just squeeze them together. This guy's just really being difficult, so I'm just going to kind of squeeze them like that. So that's what you're going to put in the oven, 425, and I'm going to do it for 18 minutes. These seem to take a while because they're so like compacted in there versus like a baking powder biscuit is a very splat disc and it cooks really fast, but this seems to take a little bit longer. So I'm going to put this in my 425. Ooh, that's hot. Ooh. Set the timer for 18 minutes and we'll be back to get our little fan biscuits. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, we are back, and I actually pulled these out of the oven after 18 minutes and then I let them sit for like 7 minutes. But the very first thing I do, because I have water in these empty containers, and when I pull it out, I go over to the sink and I just hold it up and all the water just like dumps right out without my biscuits falling out, because you can't tip it too far, but that's why I don't have any water in my empty spots. It did not evaporate in the oven. So now, aren't they just so cute? They are, after 5 or 7 minutes of sitting in the pan, then they're ready to come out, and they usually come out quite nicely, and they're just a little fan. I think they're just so fun. Now this is my itty bitty one, so he kind of looks a little bit wacky, but like these nice ones, look at how big that is. So this is why they're called a fan biscuit, because they look like a fan, and these are my monsters here. So I do try to serve these when they're nice and warm because they're just so delicious. And this one you might see will like fall and break its little fan because it's, oops, this one already broke in half. They're so heavy. So like this one broke like that. So I got that one that's like too heavy for itself, but that's okay. I might have been a little bit rough on it. But you take them out and then you can let them cool like another 5 minutes maybe. But then they're ready. Oopsie, I broke this one too. Oh, I'm not doing so hot. They are, well, I could just eat it, but it's awfully warm. Ready to go. Okay, so I just bumped this one. Wow, I'm like banging into these things. Okay, so these are my little fan biscuits. I think they're just adorable. And again, they're like a really nice baking powder biscuit texture with the cinnamon and sugar. And then I guess if you wanted, you could of course add like a powdered sugar drizzle or whatever. But I don't do that ever. I like them just this way. So there are your little cinnamon fan biscuits. So thank you very much for watching Box Free with Stephanie. I hope you liked the show. I hope you make cinnamon fan biscuits and your family thinks they're just delicious in the morning. I appreciate your time watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.